What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be going over our nutrition and diet for emphasis on healing and performance. So this is our third wellness workshop of the year, and we've already done goal setting and exercises. So it's fitting, especially this time of the year, to review this. We're not going to go over any specific diet, but we're really going to put emphasis on healing and so that you get the best out of your body. You know, performance, a lot of people think of just athletics. But for us, everyday life is performing. Your quality of life, how you elevate your health, and what you do to preserve your health is really our emphasis here. So, most people in our office and from a chiropractic standpoint think that pain starts in the spine. But healing doesn't happen just from adjustments alone, but also what we put in our body consistently through movement, mindset, and most importantly, nutrition as well. So when we look at food, we need to think of a few key points here. What foods are we putting in our body for inflammation, for tissue repair, energy, and recovery? A lot of us just think of eating and it's just something that we do. We don't think of actually what effects it has on our body and our healing. Nutrition affects inflammation in such a great way. We talk about this a lot through the holidays that we're just coming out of. We see patients who during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, and also during New Year's, that we see a lot of stress, we see a lot of inflammation, mainly from the foods that we ingest. So we think about it. Well, we're high stress, families, presents, gifts, the stress of traveling, and then most of the foods are inflammatory by nature. Processed foods, a lot of sugars, a lot of starches, right? We all love stuffing, noodles, and those kind of things. So if I were to ask you, where do you rate your health on a scale, where do you rate your nutrition, or at least even education of nutrition on a scale of 0 to 10? And being honest, most people fail to understand nutrition. We think about nutrition as these fad diets, Atkins diet, Mediterranean diets, low carb diets, fasting, just to name a few. So the way we approach this is really the big picture and the three foundational principles. For us, eat real food most of the time. We're going to talk a lot about the power of this word, most of the time. You do not have to be perfect, but if you do 80% right and still have some life and fun of the other 20%, maybe you like chocolate, maybe you like some kind of sweet or fast food here and there, that's okay. You don't have to be perfect. But if 80% of the time you're on point, you're going to see such a change in how you feel and how you heal. Number 2, balancing blood sugar. You know, this is a really in-depth thing. I'm going to keep this simple for everybody, but think about when you have certain carbohydrates. Do you eat a lot of carbohydrates at once that have such an effect on our blood sugar, and we may have that energy and then we crash? You know, I really see this even for myself. Lunch for me is a hard part. If I'm catching up with notes and catching up with, work here in the office, and I eat and then I go right back to it, I usually feel terrible. So one of the things, and we have this coming up here in the next few months, we talk about walking. Walking after you eat not only helps digest your food, but it also helps redistribute blood sugar. And number 3, again, you're really going to get sick and tired of us hearing the same things, which really are these 3 things: reducing inflammation. There are articles upon articles that prove inflammation is one of the biggest causes of disease, and chronically Americans are overinflamed. So, right to food and inflammation. Again, I call the not being perfect the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, do the right thing. 20% of the time, again, you can binge and have your fun. Again, avoid highly processed foods, excess sugar, refined vegetable oils, and again, I know I'm going to hurt some people's feelings here, but frequent alcohol. There is not anything good about this one. I've heard cardio surgeons refer to this. I've heard other people refer to this. Again, it's essentially a toxin. Anti-inflammatory foods. So your lean proteins, again, fish, eggs, poultry, chicken, turkey, things like that. Again, I'm a fan of colorful vegetables and even fruits, depending on when you have those. I personally try to have those earlier in the day because of the sugar and the carbohydrate content to that. I'm a huge fan of healthy oils, whether it's olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil as well. And then if you're a patient in our office, we are so methodical about talking about how hydrated our patients are. So an easy change that I talk about is one, adding extra hydration. The amount of Americans that are dehydrated is extremely high. Just changing this, if you do that for a week and you stay hydrated, again, whether we are your chiropractors or your doctors, if we're not, most of the time we're going to tell you to try to drink half your body weight in ounces of water. And I tell you, it will change how you feel. And the other thing, try to do this earlier in the day. One of the things I hear, well, I got to go pee often. I got to go to the bathroom often. I get up in the middle of the night. Well, aim to do this earlier in the day and start down regulating that throughout towards the evening time so you don't have to get up frequently. And again, your body, no pun intended, will adjust to that. So when inflammation's high, the body stays in defense mode. Again, most of us live in this mode in anything, which heightens disease. Adjusting, this helps the body go into heal mode. Again, over on that corner when I talked about the holiday season and stress, adjustments help the parasympathetic nervous system, helps everything auto-regulate back to normal. So, macronutrients without the confusion. A macronutrient is protein, carbohydrates, and fats. So, under each one of these columns, you're going to see the indicators for each one of these. Fats, we're going to save that one for last. So, protein. Again, my goal is always to have protein at every meal. For me, I try to keep protein high, and these about equal to one another. So whether that's 40%, 30-30, and 100% look, or maybe even a little bit higher, and try to keep these even. For me, supporting muscle, ligaments, and disc. Carbohydrates. So we're going to slow down on this a little bit. Carbohydrates, usually you hear as the bad thing in the inflammatory thing. So depending on what carbohydrate source you have, are you having donuts, white flour, refined sugars, or are we having things such as apples, bananas, sweet potatoes, and things like that? So you really got to watch that. To me, not all carbohydrates are equal. But again, as I mentioned, depending on when you have these. For me, I try to have these earlier in the day. I traditionally exercise earlier in the day as well. So I want to reboot my body and help heal it after I go to the gym and break it down. And fats. Again, in my principle and philosophy, I feel like this was very misunderstood and misled. If you've seen the new food guide pyramid, but also this is needed for hormones and our nerves as well. So prioritizing natural sources for this. So timing, hydration, and recovery. Again, about two. Actually, I've already kind of talked about some of these. So meal timing. Number one, avoid stress response spikes and keeps energy stable. So the delivery, when are we having these things? Also, don't skip your meals unless you're going through an intermittent fasting. I am somewhat of a fan of intermittent fasting, but again, we're not going to talk about diets specifically. So I try to have a regular scheduled meal as best as I can. I travel often. I speak across the country. So, sometimes it's hard to stay on schedule, but again, I always try to find a grocery store and get snacks that are better than some. Again, are some of these totally whole foods. I try to keep it that way, but again, 80-20 rule, right? Hydration. So again, this does support disc health, reduces muscle tension and fatigue. In my opinion, it's actually easier to adjust patients who are very well hydrated. I give the example. Here's a nice filet mignon steak. Here's beef jerky. Which one is more movable versus the other? And post-care recovery. So I already alluded to some of these, but after workouts or adjustments specifically, we want to nurture, heal, and rebuild our body. And again, this aids in tissue repair, specifically the protein. So our 3-step action plan, again, protein first, adding vegetables and fibers in there with that. That'll help you feel better as well. Number 2, I laughed when I put this one in here because I am a chronic offender of this, but phones down, go back to the basics, especially at dinner, be with your family, eat a good whole food meal, and then slow down and chew. This is the first part of digestion, is chewing. So this, again, when we're a fast-paced society like we are, we often neglect this. And number 3, our weekly habits. Again, you see us emphasizing protein. Most of us drink some kind of caffeine in the morning or coffee. I'm not saying that's totally the enemy, but try to drink a glass of water right when you get up in the day. Aim for the whole food meals as well. So, chiropractic care. How does this all tie in? Again, chiropractic care seeks to remove interference in the body. Nutrition gives us the raw materials to heal. When we're both working together, results happen faster and longer. I'm going to pause directly on faster and last longer. We want everything fast, but oftentimes the consistency. We're in a panic at the beginning of the year with our new goals. We're in a panic when we don't feel well. We're in a panic when we're sick. What are we doing the other 80% of time? Are we investing in our health? So, nutrition, chiropractic care, together. So, the last thing I want to bring up here is if I were to give you 5 free things to do outside of the office. Consistent meals, plan your meals. When you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. We've heard that enough. Setting up to win, because just like most healthcare, when we react, we're in a frenzy. Number 3, drink plenty of water. Number 4, move. Move after each meal. Again, that helps the digestion. If you move throughout the day, you feel much better. Movement is a natural painkiller, by the way. And number 5, whole foods, whole foods, whole foods. Try to limit processed foods. Try to limit quick things. Try to use whole foods. And again, most whole foods are way less expensive in the long run because you can buy these things in bulk and prepare it ahead of time. One of our other talks in the future is going to be about grocery shopping and going through what to pay attention to, organics, pasture-raised, all those kind of things. We're even going to dabble into some of the chemicals. What do I mean by that? Laundry soaps, dish soap, hand soap, like things that you also purchase in the grocery store. So, again, top level, basic level nutrition. I hope this helps to just engage you to change your behaviors. If you do those 5 things that I mentioned, consistent meals, plan your meals, plenty of water, movement, and whole foods, you will feel so much better. So, next week's workshop, we're going to be talking about cold and flu. What are some natural remedies that if you do get a cold or flu, what to take, what to use, but even better, what should you already be taking before those things happen? That will round out the month of January. We'll go into February. Again, whether you're a patient, anybody in our community, you are welcome. We are starting those here in the office Tuesday at 6 p.m. And my goal is that we are definitely out of here by 6:30, maybe even 6:20. Again, I want to get you guys information because, again, in our office, education is the most important thing. Take care. See you guys soon.